to Japanese students is that they are now showing their opposition to the released Fukushima radioactive wastewater incident. However, in this letter, I did not ask Japanese civic groups to change it to student participation, criticize only the Japanese government. In researching various sources, I thought that each government was arguing that it was science-backed, but it actually talked about truth according to its own purpose. And when I thought about why they were talking about truth, the biggest problem was that partition in both countries was so engagement that they thought each other was Tina. Therefore, among the scientific facts, they use only what is needed to reduce according to each dichotomous idea. Therefore, I wrote about the problem of truth from the perspective of Korean citizens and asked Japanese citizens to ask the problem of truth from their perspective. In doing so, I thought that this method would make us understand and cooperate with each other so that we could effectively deal with the problem of Fukushima radioactive wastewater without being affected by the modern judgment on politicians. Thank you for this long presentation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you may, once again, you may do evaluation by clicking one out of these 4 options, possible, logical, ideal, matters. You are doing okay, right? And next presenter is Herin. Herin, is that right?
Can you hear me?
Sure, I can hear you.
Hello, I'm Herin Park, and let me start the presentation of my midterm answering. My title is The Request from the Person of the World and the Role of the Nation. And I start the letter with to whom it may concern. Here, I want to express care and concern. As a summary of my letter, what I asked to Japan is first, scientific evidence for the safety of wastewater by differentiate fact with truth so that everyone can understand them. And second, forming social environment and system barriers by continuously communicating with Korea and neighboring countries. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Next presenter is the same. Haeson?
Yes.
Oh, you, okay. Okay, thank you. You may start.
Japan decided to dump on nuclear polluted water, so South Korea and China are concerned about it because we are nearby Japan and ocean is circulate. Japan said it's the only way, but is this TINA? No, there are other ways like develop technology to purify contaminated water or keep it longer until the concentration be lower than WHO regulation of drinking water. But developing technology is hard to complete soon, and keeping water needs much money. So they want to dump it, and the point is about safety. Actually, all matter is danger when we take it too much, even the water is either. That's why WHO present limitation and Japan promised they will follow WHO regulation. I calculate about it, and it was quite true. It's just a quarter of South Korea's tritium emission. All people in the world have a risk about health problem, but every government understands about nuclear polluted water emission because seawater can dilute it, so it will be much lower than WHO regulation. So it means safety risk is low, so the economic problem is more important. I think it's okay just thinking about tritium, but still there are still cesium and strontium problems, but because they have long half-life time and they can be accumulated in fish. So all global countries have to concern about it and choose the way which has lower risk. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, next presenter is Insuyeon, right?
Yes.
Okay, you may start.
Okay. Hi, I'm Suyeon at UNIST. I am against the Japanese discharge of wastewater. First, it is a scientific fact that tritium pollutes the seawater and adversely affects the human body. And as our society modernizes, there is a limitation to define the relationship between the nature and human separately. However, all environmental issues should be considered by purification of nature and humans. The controversy over the Japanese wastewater emission is a crisis. This is because there are sufficient alternatives to prevent the environmental pollution if additional storage tanks are built at a cost. However, if wastewater is dumped into the sea for economic saving and convenience, this is the situation of China because the seawater is already contaminated. Also, the international system of global society does not recognize the Japanese acts that are only its own interest because it describes the international law from a community perspective. Therefore, Japanese wastewater discharge is not allowed in the international system because the code of system is the international interest of community and their rule is international law. Finally, as a thinker of beyond the smart, we should treat the wastewater in the way that does not cause the environmental pollution. The capacity of thinking can satisfy the needs of other countries and the Japanese. And once all, at the end of the conversation, we all need to have a concerned attitude in which nature and human live together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very nice. Thank you. Next presenter is Jang-soo, right? Is that you?
Yes, let me start. I strongly recommend Japan withdraw the decision to release radioactive wastewater into the ocean. Korea and Chinese governments only care the safety of their citizens. However, Japan must concern many other things as well as the safety of their citizens. Japan said the issue is TINA, but this is just their truth. There must have been several different alternatives. Therefore, the wastewater treatment should be considered as a risk. Nevertheless, you didn't think enough of a big part of the issue. You said the budget was the main reason. You may have been smart about saving the budget, but you should have thought about economic damage and the criticism. You should know what you want and what you need. In this case, you wanted saving the budget, but I believe that you need the universal safety of Japanese and other things. In aspect of the Earth system, your decision is very dangerous because the ocean connects with other ocean, groundwater, and rain. Due to the wastewater, lives around the nature could be threatened as the environment. So you should have explored every country, not only engagement within your country. I fully understand the radioactive water treatment was so complex problem, not complicated. If you try to solve this problem arbitrarily, neighboring countries become behaviorism psychologists. If so, other countries may believe you are too selfish. So please let me help you together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Okay, so you use complex and complicated. Okay, thank you. Okay, next presenter is Jung-tae, right? Jung-tae?
Yes.
Okay, you may start.
My title is Please Put Yourself Scientifically from the Other Perspective. At first, I asked whether Japan's claim that the discharge of contaminated water is safe was fact or truth. The study was conducted only to produce results that fit the purpose of the study. And I mentioned that most scientific facts use these statistical techniques to claim their opinions. This research cannot be criticized as scientifically wrong, but Japan should consider the effect neighboring countries, not the Japan that guided the study. I prefer the problem to contaminated water discharge as risk. And a similar example is the missile test that we covered in class. I think the problem is the difference between the subject who accept the risk. Perhaps it is natural not to believe the scientific verification process conducted by damaging country. So Japan should fully consider the risk in the perspective of neighboring countries, and if they consider risk, it will never make decision to release wastewater. And I mentioned that the environment is too different, that Korea is damaged country and Japan is a damaging country. Even if it may be small damage, but it's very important. Therefore, Japan needs to make a more careful decision on this issue from more modern perspective, considering the whole human race. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Very good, thank you. Next presenter is JHE, right? JHE.
Yes. Oh, can you hear me?
Sure, I can.
Okay. Let me explain.
Okay, thank you.
Let me explain shortly view about my email. About my title, I use the word concern to emphasize there is a relationship between me as a member of Korean society and the effects of wastewater dumping into the sea. In the body of mail, I show 3 factors to refute Japanese government's truth. First, because the food chain from small to large organisms, the concentration of tritium we take could be larger than expected. So the belief that the level of tritium is safe may be not true. Second, the water also contains another radionuclides in addition to tritium, including very hazardous strontium-90. It can pose the risk of developing leukemia. Also, I pointed out failed of processing technology, that is ARPS, in Fukushima. It can cause more waste to rush out. It cannot cold treated. Third, Japan and many Asian countries, including Korea, are geographically adjacent. In South Korea, as a risk taker, the impact of radiation exposure is of great importance to its fishing industry. In sum, I questioned whether decision was a TINA case. And then I suggest another option like robust tank to achieve long-term social efficiency, even if put aside visible benefits right now, by emphasizing the commitment and agreement on the environment as a human beings on Earth together. It's the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very nice, thank you. Next presenter is JH17.
Hello, Professor.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you may start.
Okay, I think ocean, there is no alternative. The ocean is a repository of the life of many creatures as well as mankind. The Japanese government is trying to hand over the risk to many countries that are in contact with the ocean. I think this seems to be an irresponsible behavior for nuclear power plant they should have cared for. Currently, Japan has declared it will dump 1.25 million tons of polluted water into the ocean. Of course, Japan government said advanced liquid processing system said ARPUS claimed to have eliminated radioactive nuclide except tritium, and they argued tritium is relatively safe compared to other radioactive materials, so it can be discharged into the ocean, but this is a long way, I think. If Japan want to make this claim and dump it at ocean, they must explain countries that are expected to suffer damage to ensure we trust the performance of ARPUS. It's just that the way the results are posted on the internet is never reliable from the perspective of other countries. It is only truth that they contaminated water purified using ARPUS is safe and only tritium remains in it. We cannot accept it as a fact, so we have no choice and keep complaining into Japan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next presenter is Jaeweon Min. Jaeweon Min.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, you may start. Thank you.
The capacity of radioactive wastewater storage will be full and there will be no space to store it. It is crisis, a moment to select an alternative. Japan chose ocean emission. Japan is aware of the dangers of tritium. The Japanese government claims that other countries are also releasing water, including tritium, but no health damage has been reported. Sure is a fact, but facts proven through observation or experience may change. The fact may not be true, therefore one fact should not be mistaken for truth. Japanese civil society is proposing other alternatives. Desirable scientific culture is formed by the participation of its members. Also, scientific discussions must lead to a consensus through a process of public debate. However, the Japanese government is ignoring the opinions of the members. Moreover, I think legal regulations need to be improved. It is internationally recognized to dilute tritium to a concentration below the standard level and release it into the sea. One point to focus on is that dilution does not change the total radiation that follows into the ocean. There is no regulation on the total amount. I concern about ocean discharge. The sea is our environment and nature. Without the world, we are not still beings, so we must concern it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay, very nice. Thank you. So you may refer to a total amount of the contaminations. I agree. Okay. So next presenter is Kasong. Kasong, right?
Hello.
Okay. It's all yours. Thank you.
Let's start presentation. Many people are concerned about the Japanese government's decisions to discharge contaminated water to the ocean. There are three questions about Japanese decisions. First, is the situation TINA that Japan must release contaminated water? I think this situation is crisis. Long-term storage of contaminated water can reduce radioactive contamination damage, and it has been found that additional storage is possible. Therefore, Japanese should not show irresponsible attitude that this situation is TINA. Secondly, what's happened when tritium is released into the ocean? The Japanese government claimed that no case of tritium accumulating in the human body have been found. We need to know that truth, which Japan believes in, is not a fact. Thirdly, what is need and true wants? Japanese government should be able to meet the need of public support as well as cost reduction, expand a capacity to think about what a real want is. Marine discharge should not cause people to fall into catastrophe. In addition, we should recognize that we live in a single system called nature. Thank you for your listening.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. Very impressive. Thank you. And next presenter is KHR Mirror. KHR Mirror.
Yes, Professor. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Hearing Kim, and today I want to tell you about the present choice that cannot be rolled back in the future. Recently, the Japanese government decided to release the contaminated water into the ocean. The Japanese government said that it meets scientific international standards and there will be no problem. What is the real meaning of science do they claim? Science in their choices is just being used for truth,
We need to get out of that truth and face what fact is. We must do our best to solve this crisis scientifically, so we have to be the thinking people. They shouldn't make a decision through truth or needs to satisfy the interests of nation or to hide things about radiation risks. They will release after diluting into the ocean, but the problem here is that dilution does not mean actually eliminate tritium, but it means nothing different at a global level. This is fact, and this is different from truth. Furthermore, the circulation of ocean currents and food chains will spread it around the world, and it flows back into the Sea of Japan and steadily accumulates in the Japanese ecosystem. Accumulated one will impact on humans, but we can't separate it from human society. In fact, after the release, this problem may no longer be a problem that we can solve. It's going to be a social barrier, and so we hope to think of what is real facts and make the right decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you refer to fact out of truth, right? So I will look at. Okay, thank you very much. So next presenter is Kim.
It's me, Professor.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Mingyu Kim, and I wrote a letter insisting that Japanese government immediately stop and review the policy on Fukushima nuclear contaminated water discharge incident. I divided my arguments into two categories. The first was about transparent decision-making process, and the second was about existence of alternatives to support my argument. The content of the first argument was made in connection with Nicholas Luhmann's system theory, which was dealt with in our class. In particular, in this part, I thought that the Japanese government's communication process in their domestic as well as environmentally neighboring Korea and China could not go through a transparent decision-making process. Second, the argument was made in connection with TINA, but the current position of Japanese government continues to argue that there is no alternative to this literally. However, I think the current situation was arising because they proceed without examining alternatives from multiple perspectives in the past. But even now, I thought that an alternative would certainly exist through multilateral analysis. On these two grounds, I wrote in a letter that Japanese government would withdraw the discharge of contaminated water. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, next presenter is KHJ09.
Hello, this is Hyunji Kim taking the Science Humanities class. I wrote the letter divided into three parts. First, I mentioned the fact and the truth. We can have different truths, though there is one fact. For example, Japan said they will filter the tritium. However, the truth is it does not mean that it's completely harmless and people want nothing to be released at all rather than become eliminated. Second, I state about the catastrophe. Using radioactive energy is a risk and we have to manage to prevent damage. However, if it is released, it will be a catastrophe beyond the crisis. So I talk about Japan's decision can be a catastrophe and ask Japan that this decision is TINA. Lastly, I talk about paresthesia. We all have to know that whether Japan's decision is TINA or not. Also, the determination should be made public about the process of purifying contaminated water and other pollutants. After writing about these three main points, I claim that Japan should think about the impact on nature and other countries as a member of the community. We operate our social systems according to social efficiency, operational efficiency, and resilience. However, Japan is now focusing only on using social infrastructure quickly. In modernity, we should represent another pattern in which a sense of community plays a more important role. Thank you.
Okay, thank you thank you for your very nice and presentation, and thank you for your the patient because I skipped your presentation. Okay, very nice. And next presenter, which is a final presentation for today, is Kim, J-D-I-N-K-O-R, right?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you may start.
Hello, my name is Jaeweon Kim. I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister of Japan. I strongly suggested the withdrawal of his decision according to 3 refutations based on my definition of science. To begin with, Japan believes that Earth can remove 62 different types of radionuclides, only except for tritium. However, according to the data by TEPCO, even after the radioactive water is treated, it contains not only tritium, but also 12 kinds of other radioactive substances that cannot be removed. Second, Japan believes releasing into the ocean is still being done elsewhere, so it's nothing new. However, equating the treated water from Earth with normal wastewater from a nuclear plant is wrong because the Fukushima wastewater has already been contacted with nuclear fuel rods after the nuclear accident. Lastly, Japan has not built a global consensus on the entire process. That means it will be challenging to convince the international community about their truth. So we need a transparent and strict monitoring system that publishes its specific data. In conclusion, my opposition to Japan's decision is not a matter of any conflict with Japan, but a serious environmental and humanitarian issue that the whole world should be concerned about. As thinking humans, I believe the contaminated water of the Fukushima plant should continue to be stored in tanks while there is no other alternative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So I think we better stop here today. So we have more time, but we better stop here so we can have a presentation on Thursday class. So a Thursday class, so we start Kim Ye-jin, right? So you are the first presenter of the Thursday class. So please understand, and thank you for your understanding. And other persons, so you have done a very good presentations based on your midterm examinations. So I'm reading your the essay of the letters, and I evaluated, and with this evaluation table, so it come up with a completion of your score. Okay. Any questions? Any questions of this the presentation or other or anything? Yes. So you may not see your own email. Okay. You may not see. So you are not on the list. So okay. Oh, okay. So you find it, right? Okay. So and any other questions about the midterm examination and the presentation? Or you can evaluate by clicking only once, by taking one item out of 4. But during presentation, if you feel you'd like to give another evaluation, so you may do that. Yes. No. Your email is not shown to you. Other persons may yours. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, let me, so Ilan, okay, so let me check again. So Ilan, okay, Nora, your email is Nora, right? Eleonora. Okay, so let me check after this class. Okay, thank you very much and for your participation, and see you on Thursday. Thank you.
교수님,
예?
오늘 발표 끝난 사람은 자기 발표창 캡처해서 메일로 보내드리면 되는 거죠?
아, 그 목요일 다 끝난 다음에 다른 학생들한테 준 거 받은 거 다 합쳐서 해야 됩니다.
아, 네, 감사합니다.
네, 예, 고맙습니다.
목요일 뵙겠습니다.
네, 고맙습니다.